What is good, my people? We are live back again with another live version of the forecast. Back on this Juneteenth, this newly found national holiday, and so I wanted to come on and talk to the people. About to start working on a video too, so I wanted to come on and holler at the people or whatever. I'm still trying to find different ways to take phone calls, but tonight I am able to take phone calls, and the number is right there on the screen, 804-601-4015. And definitely in the future, man, I'm just like, switch it up, do things a little bit different, you know, try to upgrade it, you know, get through everything that's happening. And of course, I got to shout out my sister, Wanda Chavis. She always holds it down. So shout out to that sister. And definitely, man. But I definitely want to hear from y'all and y'all opinion on Juneteenth and this holiday, this national holiday newly found that you know um is going on. But yeah, I'm gonna try to be back on with another live tomorrow. But I'm going to do my best to have the new video uploaded tomorrow. I might just go ahead and upload it on this channel, but make sure y'all subscribe because people still ask me all the time, where do I find the videos or they missed the old videos. I'm still making those videos, but I don't put them on this channel because YouTube is some haters and they go by my videos one at a time. So I always have one or two strikes. So at any time I can't post something. So I use this channel for the live to communicate with the people. In the other channel, you can find the content that you're used to. And it's in the description. So make sure y'all subscribe to the Forecast Radio 24. Now, of course, I'm not really sure how a lot of y'all feel about them making Juneteenth a national holiday. Now, is it a day that we should recognize and celebrate and pay homage to our ancestors? Absolutely. I heard somebody mention it. I forget. I think it was brother guy. He said, our ancestors' birthdays, like Marcus Garvey birthday. For me, Ida B. Wells' birthday or something. Those days we should be recognizing and taking advantage of, right? But at the same time, right? It's a wrap for us playing games with these people. If we really want to be in charge of our own system, if we really want to create our own nation, it's time for us to stop playing games with our oppressor. Right now, the thing about what America does, what America has always been, is they'll give you symbols, but they'll never give you anything tangible. What's going on, brother Bakari? Matter of fact, if you want to come on, just let me know. I'll email you the link or whatever. If you want, I was just gonna come on here and speak for a little while, but I can take phone calls and you could definitely give your opinion or whatever. But you know what this is and what America has always done is give us symbols, right? Never nothing tangible, never nothing actual that will get us out of this situation, right? We talk about police reform, right? But we're the only ones that can reform the police by being responsible and staying on code and having each other's back, and by your enemy knowing that they can't just roll up on you without facing some kind of consequences. That's going to lead to the only police reform that you can ever imagine because okay, for sure, my brother, I'm gonna send you the jump. And that's the only kind of police reform that you're gonna get. Um, But as far as this holiday, we definitely can pay homage to it, but we cannot look past at the signs for this, and because I was gonna get into the fact of what happened during this, um, because people talk about you know um, Juneteenth or whatever, and the thing about it is during the Civil War, most of the slaves from the Confederacy or that was down the South, they were taken to Texas as the Union worked their way further down south. And I sent you the link, Bakari. So, that's why word got there. But the thing about it is, of course they weren't going to get the word about the Emancipation Proclamation because it didn't apply to them. The Confederacy was literally a different nation. It was another country, right? So whatever Lincoln said didn't apply to them. Now, in the places that it did apply to, he gave them a pass. Like in Maryland, Maryland was in the North, and Maryland was under the Union, and Abraham Lincoln gave them a pass and allowed them to keep their slaves. What he did was offer them compensation, $300 in D.C. for each slave they released, and he tried that with different places. But the people didn't even want to take that because slaves was the number one economic, more than anything else combined. Slaves were worth more than every other American asset combined. You see, and so the 13th Amendment passed in the Senate in 1864, but it didn't pass in the House of Representatives, so it was not the law, right? And the war was still actually going on. Yeah, yeah. But once they actually and the thing about what they don't tell you is the president that came in after Abraham Lincoln got shot in the head, Andrew Johnson, right? He overturned everything. Was Special Field Order 15, which was supposed to be 40 acres and a mule, which took away all of this land that thousands of black people had started building their own communities on, and they gave it back to the plantation owners. And you see, after the war was over, because their whole purpose was to capitalize off of slavery. That was the whole point of the Civil War. They wanted in on the tax money. And after the war was over, right, they gave amnesty to the treasonous Confederate soldiers, right, and then took the land back from them. And see, what they did was created the Freedmen's Bureau. They created the Freedmen's Bureau. Now, see, what they tell you is they sent them down to the South under the guise of Reconstruction. Now, the acting president himself said, these niggas are free, right? Let them work or starve. See, but what they don't tell you is how they was economically starving these people, right? So the Freedmen's Bureau went down south under the guise of helping them. But what they were really doing was taking advantage of them and trying to get them re-enslaved, right? Because they say it's a day of celebration, right, of freedom, but it never meant freedom. See, what they did was go down south and offer them food and medical care, right? And they said how they put it in the history books is help them find jobs. Now, what they were doing was getting these people to sign up for contracts, right? Sharecropping contracts, because they like to paint sharecropping as if it's not literal slavery. And the Freedmen's Bureau said we're not going to give you any food. We're not going to give you anything if you don't sign these contracts. And these people didn't read these contracts. They didn't know what they meant. All right. Yeah, brother Bakari, what's going on, brother Bakari?
What's going on, my brother Forecast?
Hey, man, how you doing, my brother?
I'm good, my man. One love, one love.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, you can introduce yourself to the people or whatever. Let them know where to find you and all that.
Yeah, this brother Bakari. Well, this your boy Bakari. My channel is Brother Bakari. That's name my YouTube channel. Y'all should go check it out sometime. If I say anything that you like, that you're interested in, I'm quite sure I will. But just listen, I'm joining my brother. I thank you for allowing me on your panel, my man.
Yeah, for sure, my brother. You see the topic is about Juneteenth. They made it a national holiday. What you think about that?
I wish they had not made it a federal holiday. I don't even want to. I don't even want to go out and well, it's raining here too bad, but I don't even want to pop fireworks and anything no more because they did make it a federal holiday. This is something black people been doing. So while you find people, black people that never did it, all of a sudden want to remember our ancestors, because this is it like a day of celebration? It's more or less a day of remembering, right? Like African Sankofa, right? Going reaching
Hmm.
back in the past. It's more of that than a celebration, but people who never thought it was worthy of celebrating or remembering all of a sudden want to do it. Now, I'm not mad with black people, the ones that just learning and decide they want to do it. But something that's for us, it became for everybody. So watch this. They made it a federal holiday. So people that own these businesses, all of a sudden, they're going to start having Juneteenth sales. People going to work today getting time and a half. So what's meant for us going to benefit everybody other than us, because we didn't need them to say it was a federal holiday in order for us to continue to do what we was already doing. And one thing that we were already doing was remembering our ancestors on Juneteenth.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing that come with a federal holiday. They're gonna have sales, Juneteenth sales, and all of this, and now it's gonna be a American commercialized kind of holiday. And the thing about it is, at the very same time, they literally do not want to teach about the history. Of course, they're not going to teach about the history in their schools, but the problem is we have to learn the history behind the Juneteenth, because how are we going to be celebrating freedom if we aren't even free right now? See, we are still subject to somebody else's rules, laws, and regulations, and we don't realize that the first black. Uh huh. You said something,
I,
my brother?
I didn't say nothing. No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. I thought you said something. Yeah, I was about to say, we don't realize that the first black codes was even passed before Juneteenth happened, right? Mississippi was the first place passing these black codes, and we don't even understand what happened the same year in 1865 while we're celebrating freedom. But we don't understand how sharecropping, while they did have a little few more rights, like they could sue somebody, they could own like a house or own land or whatever now after 1865, but they could not go to court against a white person. Their black marriage was actually recognized in law after that, after the whole Juneteenth thing. But we don't realize the whole background. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the whole Freedmen's Bureau thing. You know about that?
I'm just talking and I'm on mute. But no, I don't know much about it. I know what you're talking about, but I can't really speak on it. But I'm listening though. My ears open.
Oh, right, right. Well, the Freedmen's Bureau was basically, they put the just like they do now with their own organizations, they put together an organization under the guise of Reconstruction. Even though the acting president at the time, the president that after Abraham Lincoln got shot, he said, the niggas are free now, so they either work or they starve. But what they weren't saying is how now that we weren't property anymore, we like, because that's the thing, before, during slavery, they weren't lynching black people like they were after slavery, because they were considered somebody a white man's property, and it was against the law to destroy a white man's property. But you, as a human being, it wasn't against the law to lynch you. So that's why you start seeing all the lynchings. And the Freedmen's Bureau, they were supposed to be going down south under the guise of Reconstruction to like basically give like food and medical aid and shelter and all of this stuff, and help them find work. But what they were really doing was setting them up, forcing these people to take sharecropping contracts. And with the sharecroppers, the of course, the owners controlled all of the books, so they could, rob them, and then at the end of the year they be in debt, so now they have to work for free. And if you even question how much you got paid, then they call the police and you be arrested, and then you have to work for the same person for free. Now this is all like after the 13th Amendment and stuff. And so they were arresting people for being poor, for being homeless, and if they deemed you couldn't take care of your children, they can literally take your children away. What's going on, Erica? They could literally take your children away, and have them work for the same slave owner. And it was still like fugitive slave laws, where if you ran away, you'd be caught and punished and have to work for free anyway. So that's kind of the basis about like the Freedmen's Bureau. But yeah, go ahead.
This Juneteenth thing, right? This is what I say about it, right? Uh, if we think about it, remember the Native Americans did not have to. They didn't release their slaves till between 1867 and 1868, right? If you know that, did you know about that? How this government had to go threatening with war to force them
Mhm.
to release their slaves?
Yep, yep. Yeah, some of the Cherokee and shit.
Oh yeah, the five civilized tribes. Yes, it was between like 1867, 1868, somewhere up in there. Uh, I was watching this documentary and I looked into it. My tablet is messed up. I'm going to mention this, and the next time I talk about it, hopefully I'll be able to find it again. You know what else they were doing? It was in Texas mainly. After slavery, they were thinking of rules to arrest black people. When you say they were taking their kids, they would arrest black people for anything, right? Make up a law on the spot and make them go work in the fields, right? So really, they said the last black slaves in Texas was freed 1942 because they needed people to go fight in World War II. So this Juneteenth thing, I understand why people want to remember, but I don't think we should ever forget anyway, right? We should always remember. But I think this is ours. It shouldn't have been like it should nobody be benefiting off this. There's no need to shop with nobody. Really, I believe in no shopping with many other people anyway. I believe in keeping your money as black as possible. But should nobody be able to sell you anything African or shirts? Like you go to Walmart and all of a sudden now they have shirts, not just for Juneteenth. I noticed this last year, and I noticed it earlier this year. I noticed it this year and last year, February, Black History Month. They have shirts on their racks, with black quotes from black people on it, right? So should nobody be able to sell us our stuff? Nobody but us. In this time, in what we're doing, should nobody be able to prosper off this but us? But making it a national holiday, I'm going to reiterate, I wish it hadn't been made a national holiday because we were already remembering our people on these days anyway.
Right. And that's the thing. And they made it a national holiday, but they didn't make it a federal hate crime to kill one of us or shoot one of us in the face. Especially if you're a cop. See, they can do certain things because it doesn't take the pressure off. See, we can recognize the history, right? We can talk about 50 years from now. Colin Kaepernick was right for taking a knee, like they talk about Muhammad Ali. Not to compare them two in any kind of way or nothing,
I know
but
what you're doing.
right, 50 years later, then it's a whole different story. Just like now, Juneteenth can be celebrated amongst Americans, and the crazy thing is, there's a and it's a weird holiday because government jobs are going to be off, so a lot of white people will be off, and black people will have to work on Juneteenth. You understand? So, I mean, how do you feel about how it should be celebrated? Because some people say it's wrong just to say it should be a holiday just for black people. Like, how do you feel about that?
I think it's our holiday. I think even Memorial Day has been taken from us, and everybody get to benefit off what our ancestors have done, what our ancestors endured, the pain they went through to keep us. Because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent. We can say what we want to say about them. Uh, it's our holiday. I even heard black people say they would never celebrate it because we're not free. Well, it was the end of chattel, and I'm not in chattel right now. You're not in chattel. It's the end of chattel slavery, right? Because I think sometimes it become too insulting. Like I heard Dr. Judge Joe Brown say he would never celebrate it because. Now I've heard people repeat this like it means something, right? He'll never celebrate it because uh, they've been free and didn't know it. When black soldiers, the Buffalo soldiers, when they told them they were free,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't want to believe the black people. But when white people came and told you were free, they believed it. Well, they were enslaved.
Yeah.
And during slavery, when black people when they tell you how black people own slaves, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
black people bought their family members, because that's who most black slave owners bought
Right.
was their
Exactly.
family members, right? And the reason they remained slaves because it was illegal for a black person to free another black person. So if you have lived through that system for these years, and now some black people come and tell you you're free, you can't just go jump and say, "Ooh, we're free because black." You understand what I'm saying? So then
Yeah.
it becomes insulting
Mm-hmm.
from
Yeah. I
our
mean,
people.
yeah. You're definitely right. Cause I'm not sure if a lot of people know, like, when the Union beat the Confederacy here in Richmond, Virginia, and the Confederacy burnt Richmond down. They burnt it down worse than the Union would have ever did, right? And then when Abraham Lincoln came, black people was finally was like they called them Father Abraham, on some kind of biblical kind of stuff. And they was like bowing down and like kissing his feet and saying like, I know that I'm free because now I see Father Abraham, and I see where Judge Joe Brown is saying, but like you said, they were literally slaves. They had their whole humanity. They tried to take their humanity from them. I get what you're saying with that.
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying. It's our holiday. That's why I wish it was not a federal holiday. But see, when you find people say it should be for everybody, those are people I don't want to include in what I'm doing anyway. I really don't want them, in all honesty, to be a part of what we're doing because they want to try and bring everybody along. They want to reach their hands out for everybody. We always trying to make friends with other people, regardless of how often those people show you that we are actually your enemy. We are trying to figure out a way to love people, ally with people, befriend people, you know, become cordial. I've gotten past that. I've been past that actually. Uh, and I really don't affiliate myself with organizations that does that think in order for us to do something, we need other people. And a lots of time that's what it is. We don't think we can do anything without other people.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Mhm.
I said I yield the mic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's a inferiority complex that had to be beaten into us in order for this superiority, because that's what we're dealing with, a superiority complex. We have to stop making it some spooked out thing that cannot be destroyed. We're dealing with a mental illness, and a mental illness that you cannot reason with, you cannot talk to. Only a psychopath will give you a national holiday without actually rectifying the situations. And people try to dilute and crush the argument every time, because you talk about reparations, people say, oh well, black people shouldn't get this handout. But why are we still paying taxes in a system where even the streets outside don't even, they're not even fixing the streets like they're supposed to? We're not mad about that. We're not mad about all of these extra taxes. It's not life. We have a lot of older people, well, that's just life, is taxes and then you die. Well, all of this stuff is relatively new, and I'm not saying that there shouldn't be taxes, but you shouldn't be contributing to your own oppression, right? And we don't feel like we're oppressed because they give us symbols without ever actually giving us real tangible things. And that's why you can have quote unquote black presidents like Barack Obama, who, while he's running for president, does everything to avoid saying that he's black, does everything to avoid the question of reparations, apologizes for saying Trayvon Martin would look like his son, even though he would. But 5 years after he's out of office, now he has the courage to say, well, yeah, black people face discrimination. Black people should be get some kind of reparations. But Obama knows he was a symbol, and that's what they give you. But that's what any kind of psychopath does to keep you around and to keep you in your place as a slave. They'll give you symbols, right? There were some slaves who could make money. There were some slaves who even got rich, but they couldn't go in the front door. They couldn't do anything without their owner's permission. You understand? But that whole thing is nothing but symbolisms, and we are still celebrating symbolisms without actually making a change. We get to make, when we have our own holidays, we get to create whatever we want to create. We just have to understand we can do that. And I yield the mic right there.
But as long as you're seeking other people's validation and other people's approval, we don't think we will ever be able to do anything. We need their validation. We need their approval. Uh, do you know who Dr. Julia Hare is?
No,
And
no.
she said, you got to think, black people, we don't think we have enemies, right? Every race of people know that they have, every race and every ethnic group of people know that they have enemies, except black people. I forget the other lady, she said, black people still don't get it. And we don't get it. We are still waiting. We still thinking something magical is gonna happen for you. We still waiting on, we got some people waiting on the sky to crack, right? We got some people waiting on Jesus to fall out the sky. We waiting on the from the Muslims to come down with the flying donkey and save you, right? I'm not knocking anyone's religion, but what I'm saying is we have to become realistic and understand that what we are going through, we have to do it, and we have to be willing to say, to hell with other people, forget other people. They are not our problem. What they go through is what they go through, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Remember when the Native Americans was going through that? Uh,
Pipeline thing.
yes, and everybody just jumping on that bandwagon, right?
Hmm.
And people tried to get, I like, man, that's not my business. I don't care. You remember being even with the Palestine, you see how many black people talking about they standing with Palestine, right?
Yeah.
When you were little, didn't your mom and daddy tell you, boy, stay out of them people business? You don't know what they fighting for. Mind your own business.
Hmm.
That's what we have to learn to do. And if we mind our own business, and like the show I did yesterday, understanding our worth, we wouldn't seek other people's validation. We would know, yeah, that's her name, Dr. Peace Person Kid 21, Dr. Barbara Sizemore. That's her name. Black folks just don't get it. Yep. If we understood our worth and minded our own business, we wouldn't be seeking other people's validation. Matter of fact, we like to get in the middle of other people's wars that have nothing to do with us because we want one side. We want one of those sides to choose us and say, we love you. That's why we always get in the middle. Because what was going on with those Indians had nothing to do with us. What's going on in Palestine have nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
We have to know our worth. We have to understand who we are. And we wouldn't be happy because this country said Juneteenth is going to be a federal holiday. Like I said, if it was important to us, the people that it was important to, we already recognized and had a day of remembrance of what happened to our ancestors. But now the federal government have recognized us, and that feeds into the ego where black people think that they are an American. This is part of the acceptance into this society. We are American. Now you the mic.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like you saying, my brother, is and this really comes from a lack of self-love because just last year we were saying, well, yeah, stop the Asian hate, black and Asian. They got their stop the Asian hate bill. Do you think they went up there and said, well, what about black people who were standing with us? It never happens throughout time. And how many times we got to learn our lesson? We been here with the black and brown, the black and Jewish, the black and Latino, whatever. And we learn the same lesson over and over and over. But it's really a lack of self love because how can you love somebody else if you don't love yourself enough to stand up for your own rights? And you have to start learning your own history because if you knew what was happening during Juneteenth, then you wouldn't settle for any of that, right? Of course, they made being poor illegal, but they also required it. There was a law for you to show proof of employment but be arrested. But you also could not get a job unless you had permission from a judge or somebody or a white person to get another trade. All you could do was be a sharecropper. So they were literally forcing you to do that. And they were charging you. And if they arrested you, they charged you $5, right? So you had to pay the cop, and then the cop could rent you out literally as a slave. They could rent your children out literally as slaves, right? There was taxes that was only on black people. They called quote unquote good faith taxes, which that was supposed to be, just to prove that you wasn't going to break the law, but they were only laws for black people. But then they would also not only economically starve you, but then make you out to be a criminal if you stole a pig or something because you got hungry or to feed your family. Or even if you didn't steal, if they just accused you. And that's why they had this whole image of a black man being a thief. And all of this stuff happened after this 13th Amendment and, the whole Juneteenth thing, right? Because what we don't realize is slavery in America alone was worth 3.5 billion back then, which would have been like 106 billion dollars today, right? We don't understand our own worth, like you was just saying, but that's because generation after generation after generation have been taught to hate yourself, and now we look for a way to love ourselves through somebody else. But I mean, you can't ever find love until you find love for yourself. And you'll know you love yourself when you see somebody that look like you being harmed and you're ready to do something about it and you actually do. Right. So and another thing they have been saying, I don't know if you've seen Candace Owens trying to make fun of the holiday, but some people talking about if you celebrate Juneteenth, then you can't celebrate the 4th of July. Like, what do you feel about that?
I don't celebrate the 4th of July anyway, right? I don't think that anything we should celebrate. But that come to the fact of, watch this. When you just said we tried all these alliances and you mentioned the blacks and the Jews, right? That fake alliance, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard a Jew say they want to be a Nazi?
No.
Huh?
No. They actually get reparations from them.
And watch this. You know why part, and this is my take on it. You know why part of the reason we don't get a lot of the stuff that we deserve or we say it's owed to us, right? Part of our reparations is we are proud. We fight and beg to be an American. I'm an American by force, African by blood, but we choose what someone made us over what we are. Can't no one explain to me ever how are you and descendants of Africans enslaved in America? How are you an American? No one other than you can say, I was born here. But being born somewhere does not make you that. So if you're born somewhere and you call yourself black and you're an American, we should never call people Chinese or Vietnamese anymore. They're yellow Americans. But we get away from who we are for their validation. Hence, Candace Horns talking negative about Juneteenth, but she's an American, so she's going to celebrate the 4th of July. Well, 4th of July, what? Supposed to be 1776. I wonder where her ancestors was in 1776. Maybe her ancestors, maybe the way she cooned was passed down through the bloodline. Maybe her ancestors was free and helping catch black slaves. I don't know. But I wonder where they were. That's not important. It should have never been important. And we need to teach our children and stop waiting for them or anybody else to teach our children how we should feel. We need to teach our children, no one else. And it's our responsibility to make sure our kids know who they are, where they come from, and how this country feel about us. And I get a mic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely our responsibility. And by the way, if anybody want to call in, the number is right there on the screen, 804-601-4015. And yeah, like you were saying, it's our responsibility to know our actual true history, know where we come from. Because if we did, we know that even here in America, we didn't just roll over and accept any of that. We were fighting from the very beginning, right? They talk about like Candace Owens mentioned the 4th of July. I'm an American. Well, they often say the first black person to die in the war was a black person, the Crispus Attucks, right? And the whole reason they say that is because John Adams, the second president of United States, he used a black man to get those British soldiers out off for massacring those shooting those American people, and he used a black man to get them off in court, right? And that's why we understand that a black man was the first person to get killed in the war. But what America did with George Washington, the psychopath George Washington, he promised black people freedom once he started losing in the war, and he had to run to black people for help. And we signed right up and we fought for America the very first time. Abraham Lincoln did the same thing, took a playbook out of George Washington when he started losing the war, ran to black people for help, and he automatically started winning the war. Now, imagine if we put a fraction of that energy into fighting for ourselves, right? But if we keep being negative, or if we keep being ignorant about our history, we're going to keep repeating the same mistakes over and over. And that's why I talk about history as much as I do. I'm not sure if people are familiar with the massacre of New Orleans of 1866, right? And how all of these representatives were talking about the South was going to rise again. And that's another point. I'm not sure how far the South actually lost, because if you lose a war, I'm not sure how you can fly your flag and control the narrative and build statues of your leaders when you lose a war. I've never seen that, right? But they were talking about the South is going to rise again. And when black people started meeting together to find out what they were going to do after, emancipation, but they were now facing these black codes in New Orleans, about 130 people were walking up the street, and the police, they were deputizing random white citizens. So, as they were going to the convention center to have their meeting, the the white crowd, the white mob, right? They got more and more violent the closer they got to the convention center, right? And when they got to Canal Street, they started throwing bottles at them, and then eventually they started shooting. They were shooting the building. They set the building on fire with men, women, and children inside. And people were trying to jump out the window to get out, and they were shooting them as they jumped out the window, right? You had those precious white women that a lot of black people love. They were out there stabbing and killing black people too, right? They were out there doing this. They were out there killing people, but we don't understand a lot of our history. This is just one of the first massacres after the 13th Amendment, right? So I'll rest the mic right there.
There was a lot of massacres, right? I didn't know about the one that you was just speaking on, but like I said, my ears are opening, so I'm listening, right? But when it comes to us, right, we have to look and wonder. We have to think about, how do we see ourselves today? How do we see ourselves, right? How do we feel about one another? How do I feel about you? You understand? You understand?
Yeah.
How do I feel about that? How do you feel about that? And we would stop accepting these trinkets in which they give, because they are still giving trinkets, like you say, symbols that means absolutely nothing, symbolic gestures for stuff that we were already doing anyway, right? But you get these people, it should be a national or federal holiday. It should be a federal holiday. It should be. So we had black people literally begging for this to be a federal holiday because we enjoyed their trinkets, and we are trying to figure out a way to. For me, it boils down back to us figuring out a way for them to accept us, still seeking validation. And I'm going to tell you something. It's not just white validation, right?
Right.
It's not just white validation. It's validation and acceptance from anybody that's not of African descent. Because I tell everybody, what we are going through now, white people didn't start. But for some strange reason, we give the Arabs a pass. What we went through in this country, they did, but they didn't start. The white people from Europe, the white Europeans learned from them.
That's true.
That's why when you hear these so-called Moors talking about the treaty of peace and friendship that was signed with Morocco in like 1783, something like that, right? Understand,
Yeah.
there were no Africans that had there were no more indigenous Africans that had anything to do with that treaty. Why are you friends with those people? Because those people showed you how to do what you're doing. So then it boiled down to us. Why do we allow people to treat us this way and don't do anything about it? Why are we still holding on to we got to save the world? Why? Why are we find out Christians and they are still holding on to love everybody, but they forget Ecclesiastes 3 when they say don't hate, because Ecclesiastes 3 tell you there's a time to hate and a time to kill. What about those revolutionary Christians today? Now, we once had those revolutionary Christians in the past. Look at the Free African Society. We once had those revolutionary Christians in the Revolutionary Church, in the Revolutionary Masons here in this country in the past that worked for black people, strictly for black people, and not reaching a hand out to everybody. And they was coming up with plans to kill our enemies, and that's what they were doing, trying to free their people. Our revolutionary spirit is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the greatest revolutionary things we can say out of our mouth is, and I learned this from the great Dr. John Henry Clark. I think it was Dr. Julia Hare, and I also think the lady Dr. Barbara Sizemore said it. Reject the notion that you're an American. You're always African. As soon as you accept the fact that you are an American, which that is what someone has made you, you have no more fight in you.
Mhm.
I'm an American when I can get a benefit. I'm an American born African is what I am. But I'm an American if I'm going to get a benefit from it. That's it. We have to regain our revolutionary spirit. We have to regain our spirit of attaining a goal where we can be a nation of people. We have to. We have to regain that spirit where we want to run the race trailers, the 21st century's Mobutus away from us. Because once we get rid of the 21st century Mobutus, then we will be able to attack and fight and defend, which is the most thing, defend our neighborhoods and our community from everybody else. We will understand the need to protect our neighborhood from everybody else. Understand how we need to protect our integrity, protect our children, protect what means something to us, like Juneteenth. But we don't protect it. We allow everybody else to be a part. Once that revolutionary spirit come back, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna protect it. I yield the mic.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely said a lot, and some of the stuff I wanted to well, first of all, yeah, that stuff comes from a low self esteem, but a low self esteem that has been thoroughly ingrained within us, right? And you mentioned how we always try to get with other groups, and how the Moors said this and that. There was a brief time in American history. This is why it's important that we understand our history. There was a hold on, I'm not sure. This might be a call. Let me see.
Marcus Garvey. To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hello?
Hi, yes. I was just listening to, is this forecast?
Yeah, this is a forecast. Hey, you can hear him, Bakari?
Yeah, I was just listening to you and Brother Bakari.
Yeah, you can, hold on, you can hear him, Bakari?
Yes, I can hear him. I can hear him.
All right, go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, Brother Bakari, as you always know, it's a pleasure to hear you, man. Always. And Brother Forecast, I first heard you a few weeks ago, and I could listen to you forever. I could listen to you all night. Everything you said is just like totally on point.
Oh, thank you, bro.
One of the things that I just wanted to kind of give just some insight or oversight or outside or whatever to this Juneteenth is it's quite interesting that I have not heard any other constituency, and when I say constituency, I'm talking of other races. I haven't heard any other race who has a strong foundation of their own identity push for federalizing their so-called holidays, like Cinco de Mayo and Pacific Islanders Month and other things. I've never seen any of the other, and maybe they're going to do it, but I seriously doubt it, which shows that they have a strong identity of who they are, and they're looking at United Snakes for what it really is, something that they could profit on, something they could build their own constituency or their own communities or their own race on, something that they can use as a tool to build their own societies and their own people in their own countries. But the only constituency that I've seen that actually pushes to try to go ahead and federalize everything they want, which is another mode of trying to get acceptance, is our folks. And I may be wrong. Maybe other like the Hispanics and others, Asians and Indians, whatever, are moving in that direction. But I think before they move in that direction to quote unquote federalize their so-called acknowledgement, I think their priority is to make sure that they're protecting themselves first, their money, their people, their future, their generations. I might be wrong, but I have a feeling that that's more important to them than trying to get acknowledged. More important to them them to try to be considered something that they're not. They have a strong sense of their identity. They have a strong sense of, hey, I come from this land, or at least I believe, or at least I am not of the so-called American structure, either physically or through their physical appearance or through their cultural standing. They know that they have something that they represent as their strong identity. And I just got to thinking about that on Juneteenth. And if you guys want to hear a really good subject, I always watch Dr. Carr and Karen Hunter. And of course, there's some things in there that that I might not necessarily be 100% on board. But the thing I like about them is they give a strong foundation, especially Dr. Carr, in the history, or I should say the record, because there's a difference between history and record. The record of what Juneteenth is, and for us is Africans. I'm always going to call us Africans. The record, as in, when I say the record, it wasn't a thing of some white boy trying to free us, and we're saying thank you, Master. This Granger out of Texas. It was mostly us saying, hey, we're gonna be independent. We're gonna be self-reliant. This is a thing of our self-reliance, saying, hey, we're gonna start to do for self, think for self, be for self. And I love the conversation they had on it today. Because they do these classes every Saturday, and there's a strong dichotomy. It goes back to what I'm saying about other nations and other races. If they go to get acknowledgement or representation or whatever, they're not doing it to be accepted. They're not doing it for anything else other than they already have a foundation of self-reliance already set within them. So they don't have to go out and ask somebody else to acknowledge or seek some kind of validation. But I just want to leave you guys with that side. And again, Brother Forecast, it's beyond a pleasure just to listen to you.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that for real.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It's more like what I see us going through is what I call, peace, brother guy, is what I call Frederick Douglass mentality, right? And I know he's been put on a pedestal. Some people say he was the greatest orator. Some he was a great leader, but he was absolutely against Black people doing for self. He absolutely spoke out against Isaiah T. Montgomery in Mount Bayou, Mississippi, for building that town. He spoke out against Booker T. Washington. And after slavery, when they said they wanted to send us back to when they said we could go back to Africa, right? It was Frederick Douglass who said, why should we want to go back to Africa when we have been here and the white man civilized us? And that's what I see now. We don't think we can do anything for ourselves, and we don't think we can do anything without them. It's to a point where most of our people is almost, even though they won't say it the same way Frederick Douglass said it, but it's almost like they have domesticated us. And civil, we are domesticated. We have been domesticated almost like a pet, the majority of us. And I hate to say it like that. That's the nicest way I can say it, that we have been domesticated. We have been domesticated, and we are happy in this position because now I used to breed pit bulls, right? And I have done some things in my life that people would say was wrong. So I said I wanted to see how long it would take for my dogs to go back to their nature, right? So I did an experiment. I went in like a week and a half, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't feed my pets just to see how long it would take for them to go back to their wild nature. I say after about 5-6 days, I saw my dogs get out of their pen and go hunt a rabbit to feed themselves. And once I saw that, I said, you know what? Y'all can take care of yourself. But I started feeding my dog again. I just wanted to see. I was just doing an experiment, right? So I'm wondering, how long is it going to take us to get back to our African consciousness? How long? What have to be done? What more can they do to us to make us want to get back to our African consciousness? To make us get back to the consciousness of who we are and where we come from? Or are we going to just remain at their feet, like the Bible said with the woman from Canaan? Are we going to stay on our knees and tell Jesus that when Jesus tell her, I come for the Israelites alone, why should I take food from an Israelite mouth and give it to a dog? Are we going to remain like the woman from Canaan who said, but Jesus, even the dog get the crumb from the master plate? Are we going to, how long is it going to take us to realize those crumbs are not enough? And we're going to get back to our African consciousness and take what belongs to us. I yield the mic.
Yeah, that's a great question, my brother. And in my opinion, I don't think that they can ever really truly take it away from us at the bare essential, right? We may have it buried deep down within, but they can never truly take that. See, that's what we have to understand. They understand it, right? We always feel like we got to explain the situation. That's why we always like, well, Juneteenth, we got to let everybody in. When it comes to like mixed race people, well, we got to have their back. We got to have the Asians back, right? But that's all a part of systematic planning, right? A psychopath, you think that you're doing things on your own, but they are manipulating you and setting you up for this, and that's why they are constant attack of you. That is the main goal. Their whole mission from day one is to prevent the rise of the Black Messiah. And even though J. Edgar Hoover was the one to say it, that has been the mission number one, to destroy the Black home, destroy the Black family. That's why they put certain taxes on the Black community. They put a certain tax on Black women to make people discouraged from marrying Black women from day one. And you have this whole system for hundreds of years set up, pushing that into your mind. And they absolutely know your power. They had to come and kidnap you to build their system. And in that very system that has been about your destruction, you will have been the only one that been able to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, right? Every other group got handouts. Jewish people got handouts, right? Hispanics got reparations. Asians got handouts. Asians got handouts. Everybody got handouts but you. And they still had to go and destroy your communities. The government had to bomb your cities, right? But that's because you have the power to build that any single time that you want, right? We think integration was something that we did. That was a counter move from what I studied from history. That was a counter move by the enemy, because us being on our own, building our own communities, we start realizing we don't need nobody else. Black Wall Street was not an anomaly. That was everywhere. And they realized that they had to destroy our communities, right? So that's what they did. In integration, we think that it was our move. The enemy tries to stay 10 steps ahead of you. And you talked about, the Arabs and all of that stuff, and how they taught Europeans, which is absolutely right. But, right now we're in a system and we have to deal with all of that, right? We're dealing with global issues, right? But we've let individualistic minded people, because they come from a place of scarcity, from a place of lack, we allowed them to put that poverty mindset in it. You know what is the problem about the hood? It's not that the people are so horrible, it's the poverty mindset in the hood. It's the system of destruction. And those very hoods was about upliftment years ago, a couple of decades ago. And a certain generation, like the children of the integration movement, right, they were so willing to accept, integrating. And to me, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, because that's really my mom's generation, but they were the generation that tried to kind of fit in the most. The generations before understood what it fit in, and we're starting to kind of get it again. But that whole like, I think it's more propaganda. We're on code more so than we like to believe, but we're not where we need to be. But I'll rest the mic right there, my brother.
Yeah, fighting for integration and arguing for integration is one thing when the whole fight should have been desegregation. Have you ever heard any other group of people argue for integration? or do other groups of people want to live amongst themselves? See, the goal is desegregation, right? So I'm gonna show you know integration is what we have now. Desegregation would have been we keep our neighborhoods, we live how we want to live, but we had a right to go where we want to go. We have the right to go. You can't turn us away from your hospitals. You understand what I'm saying? So there was a difference. But the trick they have been playing for 400 years, one of the tricks is tell you you're not good enough. And you will do everything in your power to try and be good enough. Like, I hear people say, this is our country because we fought in the wars. That's the trick. I did a show about that. It was called Slavery and the Military. That is something people been doing to African people, start with the Arabs when they were able to conquer certain African countries. That was something they have been doing to African people since the 7th century. You make them fight in the military, that way they can feel their part. You can take their women, rape their women, you make those mulatto children, and once you make those mulatto children, they don't necessarily have loyalty to the African race, to the black race. They have mixed loyalties and they tend to go with the people that can give them the most. And those tricks and everything that started back in the 7th century, we are still going through it right now. We're going through the exact same thing right now with the mulattoes. They're black, they're black, they're black. Then say they sold you out. They're not selling you out. They have dual loyalties. And white people can give them more. We are still going through one to be accepted. So since we're going through one to be accepted, we fight for these trinkets. Even down to the point of reparations. We're fighting for reparations, right? I'm sorry, we're not fighting for reparations. We're truly not fighting for anything. So when I use the word fight, it's not us fighting. We're asking them to give us reparations, right? But do we ever look in the mirror and say, how about internal reparations first? How about protect our neighborhood and we shop black? Black first, black only, as much as you can. But anyone is allowed to come in our neighborhoods and open up a business. We say we don't have money, but you have other groups of people can come in our neighborhoods and create generational wealth off us. And then when you hear a lot of our people talk about black businesses, the first thing that's going to come out of their mouth is the black business that give bad service. It's okay to talk about us. It's okay to belittle us. It's okay to disrespect us. It's okay to treat us like we are nothing, because that is what this country, that is what the history of the world have shown us about black people, that you are nothing. And we in the 21st century have finally accepted that for a lot of us. When I'm saying we, of course, not all of us, but that's what we have accepted. But once we understand our worth, there's a lot of stuff that we're doing that we won't do anymore. We have to understand our worth. I get it, Mike.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and we're not gonna be on here too much longer. So if anybody want to call in, you can call in the number 804-601-4015. Put your 2 cents in on Juneteenth and I guess what it means to you. But you absolutely right though, brother Bakari, because see what we gotta realize, we are in a position right now where we can literally create whatever we want to create. We want to create a religion, we want to create a language, we want to create a money system. We can do whatever we want to do at this point right now. And while we're celebrating Juneteenth, which we should celebrate and pay homage to our ancestors, because everything that they did got us to this situation, right? Everything that me and Bakar is saying right now, we would have got lynched 50 years ago for saying half of this kind of stuff, right? But we also have to be on the mind frame of what a war is, and your enemy is going to economically try to attack you to make you dependent on them for your food, for your medical needs, for everything. And that's the thing that we should be mad about, that your enemy controls your food sources, controls everything, right? We talk about, I make a lot of videos about people getting killed because that's something that we can all agree about. We don't want our children to be killed. We talk about what can black people agree about. We don't want our children to be shot down on the street. We don't want to face that, right? But we should be mad that our parents, right, black women or black men have so much health problems at an age, how diabetes affects our community. Those are the things we should be pissed off about, right? And how other communities can come into our neighborhoods and sell us whatever they want that they wouldn't sell their own people, right? We could go to these stores and say, you got 24 hours, 48 hours to get out of here, right? And it ain't got to be on no gangster stuff. You could say, well, we're not going to allow anybody to shop here. Nobody in this neighborhood is going to shop here after 24 hours if you don't leave. Or you can handle it another way, however you feel. But you have to get to the point where you realize that you are worth it. Everything in this universe wants to survive. And somehow your enemy has tricked you into thinking that it's a bad thing that you want to survive, to make you feel guilty for wanting to put your children in the position to be successful. Now, this is the same people who slaughtered you, who destroyed your language, who destroyed your religion, who destroyed your history, to the point where we argue with each other about where we come from, about what religion we had, when generally we come from different places. They learned how to stay on code. We have to learn how to stay on code. They had their Berlin conference where they stopped fighting over taking control of us, right? But we have to get to that point, right? But our lives have to mean more to us, and we have to respond with more urgency than they do to stay in the position that they're in. And believe me, you're dealing with somebody who is always going to respond the way that they do. They tell you all the time, go back to Africa if you don't like it. If all of us packed up right now and moved back to Africa in a few years, they coming back to kidnap you. This is something that you're going to have to face. You don't have to explain racism to somebody who created the system of racism. You don't have to explain the history to somebody who hid the history from you, right? Why are you trying to convince your enemy, right? You're looking for validation outside of yourself, and your enemy has to keep you looking for validation within them, because that's the only way that they can feel powerful. Somebody who could not even build their own nation is telling you how to feel about yourself. It's telling you what you deserve. It's telling you you can have this holiday, but we're not going to teach you about your history in our schools. But why are we asking them to teach them about our history in their schools? Why are we asking them to pass laws for us? This is a situation where we got to start passing these laws for ourselves. Well, we got to start showing people that we are not going to put up with it anymore. Until you have an army or a nation backing you up, then you are going to be an easy target. And that's just the way of the world. People are going to pick on easy targets, and they're going to exploit and use you. And as long as you looking for outside validation, right, to make yourself feel better, because it's not our fault. There's been a system literally designed to make us feel this way. Nothing is a coincidence. Not a coincidence you go to black places and they're beautiful and it's tropical, but the people are dirt poor. That's not an accident. That is by design. And we got to stop accepting this white supremacy concept, because before we came in and saved them, they were in the dark ages. You was not in the dark ages, right? You were in the dark ages once you gave everything, once you gave your power away. But once you realize you gave your power away and nobody took it from you, you'll be in a lot better situation. But I'll yield the mic right there.
Yeah, we did give our weight. Excuse me. We keep dealing with people, like you said, from a place of scarcity, and they don't know how to share. Now we expecting them to share. They never shared anything because they didn't know how to share. And they didn't know how to share because there was nothing there. But I would give them this. They will fight. They see something that they want, they will fight for it. Until we understand, until we truly study our enemies, all of them, until we truly study our enemies and understand our enemies and understand the lengths they're willing to go through to make sure their people survive, and realize we have to do the same thing once we study it, we won't get anywhere until we understand how brutal these people are, all of your enemies, how brutal they are to you, how brutal they were in the past, how brutal they are today. Until we understand that, and we are willing to say we can do the same thing, we are willing to celebrate Micah Xavier Johnson, the guy that killed those cops in Dallas, Texas, Gavin Long, the guy that killed the cops in Louisiana. Right now, I can't even remember the guy. I can't even remember the guy name in LA until
I
we're
can
willing.
I can help
Christopher
black people
Garner.
now. Oh Lord.
Until we are willing to celebrate them like heroes, because that's what they are, and I call them heroes. Until we're willing to celebrate them like heroes, we won't go anywhere. Celebrating them like heroes mean you understand the lengths that your enemy is willing to go through, and you are willing to go through the same thing for the survival of your race and to make sure we can gain some power. And I yield the mic.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, we ain't gonna stay on too long. Keep my brother Bakari on here too long. But yeah, that's absolutely the truth, because your enemy is never going to show you love. If think about it, can you name one single treaty that they've kept with anybody else? So why would you expect them to keep that right now? A bully only respects power. We have to stop, deifying the situation that we're in as if it's impossible to get out of. Because if we all decided right now today that enough is enough, there's nothing that your enemy can do about it. And it's not about biblical kind of stuff, but it's the truth. The first shall be the last. There's no way that your enemy can take you out. It's just that you have to get that fear out of your heart. It's a reason why they took the biggest, strongest man and broke him down in front of everybody to instill that fear. There's a reason why they tried to separate the family and destroy the family, because they fear you. They are acting from a place of fear. Anybody with a superiority complex comes from a place of fear, right? And once you get over your fear, then there is nothing they can do. That's why they have to keep instilling that fear over and over and over. It's a plan, it's a system. But you have to realize that psychopaths aren't that creative. They can only really do the same version. They can mix it up or make it look different. They go from slavery to sharecropping, but they're going to be doing the same tactics. A psychopath is not creative, right? Understand your value, understand your worth. But like I said, we're not gonna be on here too much longer. So I'll just ask you this, and then after this question, then we'll close out after this. But yeah, but I wanted to ask you: is there any like Juneteenth celebrations or like something that went on today? I know it rained down there, you said. But is there any like things you want to shout out for like Juneteenth or something like that?
Well, it was a Juneteenth festival I was going to go to, but it rained too bad, and it's raining all weekend, so I'm not going. And like I said, I almost don't even want to celebrate it now that they made it a national holiday, right? I almost don't want to celebrate it. But it's like I said, it's a day of remembrance. And I pop my fireworks. have excellent fireworks as I remember the things my ancestors went through. Because it's not just the ancestors on that day, it's the ancestors after them that went through everything they went through. It's ancestors in Reconstruction. It's the ancestors who went through Jim Crow back then, even though we Jim Crow today. It's our ancestors where people could come kick in your door and lynch you. Yeah, so Juneteenth is not just for those people they say in Galveston, Texas. It's for our ancestors all around the world, all around the world, all in this country. It's for people, it's for African blood people everywhere. In this, and all of us should remember this day. All of us, all African people, we should remember this day. I yield the mic.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely should remember this day, and we definitely should remember everything surrounding this day from the beginning to the end. Understand that you are in this and still in the same country that passed the black codes before Juneteenth even happened, right? You got to understand that it was illegal for you to own and possess guns or any kind of weapons. It was illegal for us to gather in any kind of groups. And to this day, they still call us gangs for doing it, right? Even though they got the biggest gang in the world. But never feel bad about saying that you want respect. Never feel bad about wanting to protect yourself, about wanting to protect your children. It makes you a human. And you're dealing with somebody who does not have empathy, and they show us every single day and how they can give us symbols like a holiday, but they will not pass a law to keep somebody to overturn the Casual Killing Act from the 1600s. You are dealing with somebody who does not have empathy, and you cannot ever talk empathy into anybody. All you can do is put yourself in a position to where you can survive, to where you can thrive, to where you can be successful, and put your children in a position to be successful. And a bully doesn't respect anything but authority, right? A bully will bully you every day until you punch them in the face. And you may have to punch them in the face every day for a year, but they're going to get the message. It's just that you got to get that fear out of your heart, because at the end of the day, we are all we got. But yeah, brother Bakari, you wanna anything else you want to say? Solutions and yeah, shout out to the channel and the whole closeout thing.
All right, man. Thank you for allowing me on your panel, my brother Forecast. I thank everybody uh, in the chat for listening. I hope I said something that you like. And if you haven't heard of me, you have now. The name of my channel is Brother Bakari. Go check it out. Smash the subscribe button and that notification bell. You know, the solution is us. We're the only solution. The solution to this problem is us. The solution to the problem is not the people that created the problem. The solution is us. We are the solution to the problem. We are. No one else. We're the solution. Come together, put money together, like Team Black financial plan. And I'm going to talk about that some other time. But I have someone in the chat that it has absolutely worked for. Though we are the solution. Remember that. We don't need their validation. We validate one another. We're not going to let the worst of us be the representation of us, the worst of us in business, the worst of us on the street. We're not going to let the worst of us represent us. We are going to represent us, and we are going to do what some people consider the worst of us, right? So what we are going to do, we're going to do the work, and we're going to bring our people along that want to be a part. The ones that don't want to be a part, we will not worry. We have to move on and don't worry about it, because in war there will be and there is collateral damage. Some of our people don't know. Some of our people don't understand. So sometimes I'm not as sympathetic or have as much empathy as I should, but I know all of our people don't know. So in the ones that know, it's for us to teach the ones who want to listen. The ones that don't want to listen, don't worry about it. Move on. In order to build this nation, we can't worry about the ones that don't want to be a part. We are a visual people. The ones that don't think they want to be a part, they absolutely want to be a part once they see it moving. I yield the mic.
Man, yeah, that's absolute facts, my brother. And yeah, I'm not sure if by the way, I forgot to let you know too. My homegirl, I might be able to get her to come on the show tomorrow if you are doing the show. So make sure y'all subscribe to the brother Bakari. Maybe you should say something in the chat just so they can find your channel or whatever. But yeah, I appreciate you for coming on here. And yeah, you absolutely right. You know, when the people see people moving, and this is what I'm starting to notice, a lot of people are looking for a leader, for somebody to, you know, show them the way. But you start building your own. If you build it, they will come, right? If we have a lot of issues between black men and black women with the gender wars, and black men saying you protected this and that. But if you build a nation, then black women will be right behind you. Other brothers will be right behind you, and we cannot worry about other people who is not down for it, right? Because at the end of the day, we are all we got, and all it takes is a critical mass amount of us. There is no one black leader. The black messiah is black unity. Now, you know, I'm not a doctor or a lawyer, or I don't own a grocery store or any of that. It takes a community to build, but we also have to be ready to protect that community at all costs. Now, something that we can do, and I say it all the time, we can because we so adamant about elections and voting for people, we can nominate and vote in the most successful black business people, put them in charge strictly of funding and helping grow black businesses, something we can all contribute to right now, and make sure they stay transparent and they stay in charge, because your enemy likes to co-opt everything you do. But we can all get behind something like that right now, and they'll put black businesses in our neighborhoods, and in return they'll hire us, and we'll be supporting them. We'll have jobs. We can build everything that we want to build. Educate yourself and then educate your children, right? And I got to shout out to the Miss Ida B. Wells. You know, that sister was a pioneer. She was the first person, like before Rosa Parks on the bus. She did that, you know, and you know, I gotta shout out to the ancestors and look up that massacre, the New Orleans massacre of 1866. Right, we studying Juneteenth. Look up the massacre of New Orleans in 1866. But I appreciate all of y'all for listening. Make sure y'all subscribe to the backup channel. I'm gonna try to have that video up tomorrow. Make sure y'all subscribe to brother Bakari, just in case. Whenever my brother go live, he have, you know, great topics. So I appreciate all of y'all. I appreciate my brother for coming on. I appreciate the brother for calling in, and all of y'all for listening. I got a shout out to my sister Wanda Chavis for holding it down. Much love to you, sis. And I'm working on the book. It'll hopefully be out soon, so I'm gonna let y'all know. So as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we gonna keep falling for anything.